Julian's got the flu, so it's no different.
That's all right.
Just kidding.
We're gonna start building the.
Way to make me feel bad.
It's entirely my intent.
Lauren, you got that posted yet?
You don't want to be here anyways, Fred. It's kind of stressful.
Well, I can see
Is it?
Did you click the button that says go to Facebook?
Starts working for 1 month, and now you're already shouting demands at her.
I know. Can you just
Lord, post the damn thing to Facebook.
What a jerk.
Yeah, Blake. Before we
Lauren,
go,
the link.
Yeah, no,
The link.
Blake, you sound like I don't think you're going through your microphone, buddy.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
Sounds very airy.
How about now? Is that better?
Try. Keep talking.
Still the same. That should be.
That's better.
That's
yeah.
better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I bought a new cord. Found out that was my issue last time, so I was hoping I didn't spend $15 on Amazon for nothing.
No, not worth it.
We appreciate your investment into this podcast.
Cow rip.
You know what? Pulling out all stops. Out all stops.
We'll make sure we reimburse you for that when the time comes.
Yeah.
Checks in the mail.
Cords too. Royalties.
New equipment.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, Brian. You might be in trouble tonight, man. We can't. You keep going in and out, and you sound like the Terminator.
All right, that's no good.
You can get your royalty check for the high-speed internet?
No, apparently not.
But I'll tell you what. Starting next week, at least this house is going to be on fiber control because who just signed up for 1,000 megabit internet today was this guy.
Wow.
So,
Ooh,
Wow.
Wasn't with Google Fiber.
It was not, but all the
I gotta
downloads
be
are
a
happening
couple.
over here. Yeah.
Who's that? AT&T?
Yeah, AT&T. Yeah, they first had it. Okay, I'm going to put the chat link into our chat so you all can see it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to expand this a little bit to see if the one thing I don't see exactly how many people are on watching live right now. That's weird. It usually
Because there's
says
nobody watching us. That's
6.
why.
Well, I mean, we've
There's
got
1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
we got at least 6 people
Six
that
of us
are.
here.
Six,
We're
yeah.
good.
Well, no, we've got at least 5 people on chat already talking, but usually it says it right here in the old Hangouts window. But I guess we're
How do I meet the?
there you go.
YouTube
People are
again?
saying we've got
47.
47 already. So
I
good.
heard you're getting fiber, so that they're
Yeah.
pissed.
Oh, once we get this fiber, we're gonna be in HD so hard. I mean, there we go.
How do I turn the mute on the YouTube?
Just turn mute on YouTube. Do this. Close the window for YouTube, and then so I just put a link into the chat box, and so
I know that's what I did. I clicked on that, and there ain't nothing there. I mean, there's no way to.
Here, try it again. Because I promise you, baby bird, I'm not gonna not feed you here.
That's a first.
I don't know how to do this shit.
That's
Right,
why
you
we're
need to have
here.
your assistant there late at night to do these things for you.
You have to Morse
Listen,
code,
that's-
Fred.
That's why we're here for you, man.
I swear to
Three,
God.
it's 3 dots, 2 dashes, 4 dots.
I'm just not going to be in the chat room. How's that?
That's fine. I can let you know. Laura, where are you going?
Hold on. Maybe she's trying to find out how to mute the damn thing.
Well,
I swear to God, I can't find out how to mute it.
Oh, our dog was back in my bunker. I don't know what he was
All right,
doing.
we're going to lose people if I don't shut up. So let's get this going.
Yep. Well, I got to get my wife back here so I can get
You're going to lose me.
I know.
Listen, I can't lose Carla. My life without Carla would be awful.
I thought this was a co-host night. I actually also have.
You got your co-host with you?
I have a co-host.
Hey.
Hey, there you go.
Working on a Shark Valentine bag. Apparently, they celebrate Valentine's a little bit earlier. I was like, is this what my life is going to be? You know, boys who can't do their own crafts, so I have to sit here and there.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much. I had to
Basically,
do
that's
art
what it is.
earlier.
It's all right. It's always nice to see Miss Bourboner make an appearance, though.
Well,
This
hold the
is-
gills up.
No, we'll show it later. No.
All right. Well, I finally got my phone back. I guess we are ready to go. I got my notes ready. So, any questions before we start? Everybody got a drink ready to kind of go?
What are our topics tonight? Just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Nobody
like,
reads what Kenny
Valentine's,
says.
Valentine's.
Well, it's funny because I told Brian about the topics, I think, 2 days ago, and I was like, hey, like, we're going to talk about this thing. I kind of want you to just be a little bit like our legal guy that knows everything here. So it'd be really helpful if you knew what was going on, because we could guess all we want, but it's always nice to have a lawyer on a retainer here for the roundtable.
That's right. Pro bono right here.
Make sure you send the bill to Kenny and Ryan.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, then I can afford better internet.
15 minutes.
Well, you just gotta come over here to Crescent Hill, man. Apparently, we just got fiber, so I just signed up for it today. So we'll
All right.
I'll let you know on Saturday when it gets installed.
Good.
All right. So I think we're ready to go. Some people said that we're up to 52, probably 55 people at this point. So we'll do. I know we've got gentlemen. If you've never met Carla before, this is Carla Carlton. So she's going to join us tonight.
Hello.
Hey, Carl.
Hi.
She's
Welcome.
the best.
She
Thank
is
you.
the best. And so we're just going to kind of. We're not going to take it easy on her. You know, we gotta throw all the hard
Dude,
questions.
we need to ask for
Bring
mercy
it.
from her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
kidding me.
Don't ask us any hard
Kenny's gonna
questions.
yell at you like he yells at his wife.
Don't throw any curveballs on us.
There won't be too many curveballs. But with that, let's go ahead and so we'll just get a few seconds of silence. We'll kick it off, and we'll do as we usually do. Welcome back to another episode of Bourbon Pursuit, and this is the 29th recording of the Bourbon Community Roundtable. We've got Kenny, and we've got Ryan, and we've got Fred here. We got the whole trio of Bourbon Pursuit ready to kick this off, and we got a lot of great topics tonight. But before we do this, Ryan and Fred, I kind of want to gauge your kind of like what's been happening, because this is all recent news, at least around here. There's a lot of things that's happening. There's a lot of things that's going to happen. By the time this gets released, Fred's got some stuff he's doing with another concert. Hopefully that means good things, because it's raining now, which means we're going to get the rain out now. So it's not going to be here for Bourbon and Beyond. But rain has been one thing that's really been hitting the bluegrass hard as of lately.
For God's sakes, Kentucky, stop raining.
Oh no!
my God.
I got an ark in construction in my backyard, like starting to gather 2 birds and like 2 squirrels. And it's crazy how much
I thought
rain.
that beard
Yeah.
was looking a little bit longer. That
I
kind
know.
of explains it.
Trying
Yeah.
to get my scribes out.
So the concert you mentioned is Hometown Rising. It's a country music festival. It's put on by the same people who put on Bourbon and Beyond. Danny Warren Presents, and I'm curating some bourbon stuff for that. So if you love country music, it will be. We're announcing everything tomorrow, all the headliners and everything. I'm just telling you, it's quite possibly going to be the most sought after show in the country. It's an incredible lineup.
Wow.
I mean,
awesome.
it's like
Where is
quintessential Kentucky, right? Country music
Yeah.
and bourbon. I mean,
Yeah. There's going to be
More
it's
Kentucky
a
can you
great symbiotic relationship. And what's funny about country music is country music has actually been oddly Canadian whiskey territory. Starting back in the 1960s, the Canadian whiskey distillers would actually target country music festivals, and they would target like rodeos and everything. So this is truly a historic, festival.
that makes sense, because all my redneck cousins who love country music drink Crown and like Coke all the time.
Yeah.
Like they just, I'm like, what are you doing? You're from Kentucky, you love country, and you're drinking Crown and Coke. What's wrong with you?
Well, I was actually
That's
kind of
funny.
surprised. Like, I thought it'd be more of like a Jack Daniels thing.
Well, I'm sure Jack Daniels will have a presence there too, but we're in bourbon country, man. Come on.
Well, I'm just saying, like Jack Daniels and rock and roll, maybe country music, whatever it is, it usually goes hand in hand.
Well, listen, Jack is everywhere. That is the most iconic brand that we have in America, aside from maybe Coca-Cola. It's everywhere. It penetrates every market. And, it is when people drink Jack, they usually do it for a good time. So
They're here for the party.
Absolutely. So with that, let's go ahead and just hit the round table up real quick and let everybody introduce themselves. Blake wanted to jump in there, so I'm going to let him go first.
Well, real quick, is this different from the Forecastle lineup you tweeted out earlier today?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's a different
Yeah,
festival.
we got a festival every
You
day.
got festivals like every other. Yeah.
Kentucky's the new Florida, man. What are you going to do?
Yeah. All right. Am I up for my intro?
Absolutely.
I am Blake from Bourboner. It's BOURBONR.com and also sealbox.com, SEELBACHS. I only have sites that you have to pronounce and spell out and make it really hard to find. So you really have to think about it. But yeah, you probably know me as the Brett Favre of the Bourbon Roundtable. Still hit every single Bourbon Roundtable. So that's my claim to
It's
fame.
impressive, man.
It really is.
Yeah. Rain, sleet, or snow.
Especially during
Yep.
flu season.
Flu season, you got 19 kids, 6 businesses. I mean, it's
What you didn't know is
vaccine
I actually have a twin brother, and so I have him fill in sometimes.
Explains a lot.
See, when you were in the NFL, did you guys trade snaps so you wouldn't get injured?
It depended on which play we wanted to run. Yeah. Sometimes he'd come and fill in for me. The NFL is a tough business, though.
Yeah.
It's,
You only got down on the blocking plays, right? He got on the passing.
no,
He was all passing.
yeah. Send me on a go route. That's the only time I'm out there.
And so I want to take this opportunity to also introduce a new face to the roundtable tonight. So we have Carla Carlton here. So Carla, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm Carla Carlton. I am also known as the Bourbon Babe. That's pretty self-explanatory. I don't have to spell it to you, I don't think. Bourbonbabe.com. Yes, you can spell it. I'm also managing editor of Bourbon Plus magazine, along with Fred, your illustrious co-host there. And just came out with my first book, Barrel Strength Bourbon. And I would like to give a shout out to the Bellarmine University School of Communication for loaning me this wonderful microphone that looks like I'm broadcasting from the 1940s World Series. It's pretty awesome. Bellarmine's my day job. So I stay busy, but as always, bourbon is this place to be. So thank you.
Awesome. We're gonna thank you again for joining us tonight, and we're hoping to hear some good anecdotes and another new angles to hear about. But as we're talking about authors, we got another author that we want to talk about next. So Brian Sippin' Corn, go ahead and go
Not
next.
Fred, Brian.
All right. Yeah, look at all of that. All right. Well, it's great to be on again. Missed the last couple. I'm Brian with Sippin' Corn. You can find me at sippincorn.com. Also, bourbonjustice.com. So that's the book that was released in November, mostly on Twitter, a little bit on Facebook, and my daughter is still trying to get me to be on Instagram more. So check out Sippin' Corn on all of those.
Instagram's a pain, man. You don't want to be on there. You can't put the link in your description.
Yeah, well, you got to have somebody like me to be on you to make sure that you're doing it right. Apparently, if anybody that missed the pre-show,
I'm telling you, man, I don't know why I came over. I was stressful like 20 minutes trying to get on. They're like moving lights, and they're like, "No, you got too many shadows." Like it's like, and I'm like,
no, I
start filming.
Take a picture.
I gave my wife a hard time before we started. I was like, "You got to get the pre-show Instagram going. We got to get this going. Like we're starting live at 5. We got to go.
It's definitely team turmoil over here.
All these distillers are they're laughing at us from the great beyond. They're like, "Oh, you poor people, you can't do your Instagram." It's like we have been pioneers. It's pretty funny.
It takes time.
It does.
All right, so Jordan, round us out.
Yeah, so this is Jordan. I'm one of 3 guys from Breaking Bourbon, at Breaking Bourbon on all the social media handles and Patreon. Go to the website, find our daily release calendar and up-to-date reviews and news. And to answer Kyle Anderson's question, so I was just doing a Basil Hayden 10s review, so I ended up turning it into an old-fashioned. And that's all I'm going to say about that bourbon.
Good for cocktails.
It sucks, doesn't
It's something
it?
like, yeah.
I mean, it is the most freaking underperforming bourbon I can recall.
Well,
I actually stood in line for that damn thing.
Ooh, no.
Yeah.
No.
This was before everyone started saying it sucked. And
By the way, let this also be a pivotal moment that recognizes that, yes, also Fred Minnick waits in lines for bourbon.
Yes, it's true.
I don't know why that's a surprise.
This is
to
true.
me.
The highest of highs.
I mean, because be honest, like when we talk about it, like people think that things come easy to us. Like it could be anybody that's sitting here and they think that, oh yeah, the media, they get everything. They see this stuff on my back wall. They think that, oh, it just comes in the mail. Like, no, it just like everybody else, like it takes work and effort and hunting and everything like that.
Yeah, you build connections. And I mean, I spend I spend well over $10,000 a year on bourbon. So, yeah.
If anything, I think it makes it worse being in the
The
media.
advantage we
to
have
get
is
bourbon
it's
here.
tax deductible. So
Yeah.
at least we have that going for us. I was doing
This is
QuickBooks
true.
today, and I'm like, "Ooh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a real great way of running a company. Hey, let's buy this as tax deductible.
Just write it off. All you gotta
Help
do is write it
justify
off.
everything. Yeah.
I think that was Blake's advertisement for, hey, I'll also be your tax guy.
Yeah. So I mean, if anybody wants to know how to write this stuff off, I'll
me a
file that
CFO.
LLC for you. I got you covered. It's not considered a hobby until you show a loss for 3 years, so you're good.
This is true.
See, he knows all the laws already. But speaking of laws, that's kind of what the first topic is about. And this one is coming out of the state of Tennessee. And this is something that is very pivotal. It's huge in regards to what this could be in regards of the whiskey and wine industry, breaking down commerce barriers as well as breaking down shipping barriers. So I want to take a few minutes here and kind of give you just a little bit of background to sort of set the stage on sort of what's happening. So if anybody that's looked around and you Google Total Wine Supreme Court, there's a lot of articles out there. There's been some on NPR, there's been some on CNBC, ABC, Washington Post, whatever. But there was one that went really in depth, and this was on winespectator.com. And I took this and I want to take a few good tidbits out of this because they went really, really, really deep in a lot of the things I think that really matter to most of us here. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of background. So in 2016, Doug and Mary Ketchum decided to leave Salt Lake City for Tennessee and buy a wine store. Their daughter, Stacy, has cerebral palsy. And after she contracted pneumonia, had a lung collapse, her doctor urged her and her family to move to a different climate. After weighing different options, the Ketchums found a store, Kimbrough Fine Wine and Spirits, down in Memphis, Tennessee. Their daughter would be in a healthier environment, and being owners of the store would allow them the flexibility to care for her. But when the Ketchums applied for a liquor license, the Tennessee Wine and Spirits Retailers Association pointed out that the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission that Ketchum's did not satisfy a state law, and that requires applicants to live in the state for at least 2 years before obtaining a license. The Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission was also considering application from the retail chain Total Wine and More to open a Tennessee store down in Knoxville. The Tennessee Wine and Spirits Retailers Association threatened to sue the state if they approved any licenses. The Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission, the executive director at the time, Clayton Bird, he was actually unsure if the residency law was actually constitutional. So he referred it to the courts. Both a federal district judge and the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals concluded that the law was, after all, unconstitutional. So the Tennessee Wine and Spirits Retailers Association petitioned, and now it's made its way all the way up to the Supreme Court. So the real question here is this law protected by the 21st Amendment, which that's the one, if you're not familiar, that ended prohibition across the country and gave states complete control over alcohol laws? Or does this violate the Constitution's Commerce Clause, and that which actually prevents states from erecting business barriers with other states? Now, the Tennessee Wine and Spirits Retailers Association, they argue that the 21st Amendment not only just rejected prohibition, but not really the temperance goals that motivated it. So that they said that they should know who they're selling to, who they're marketing to, and they're making themselves aware of their community. So they're not selling to the town drunk, they're not selling to minors, and it shouldn't be regulated like we're selling t-shirts. However, in 2005, the Supreme Court's Granholm versus Heald decision struck down bans on out-of-state winery shipping in New York and Michigan, claiming that violated the Commerce Clause. And that now allows, and that states, and as the states, that allowed in-state wineries to actually ship directly to consumers themselves. And this is why the Circuit Court decided that Tennessee laws were unconstitutional to actually have a residency clause. In addition, rebuttal arguments mentioned previously about this community aspect from the other side, they said the notion that someone living in Memphis is more in touch with somebody that's in Knoxville than someone actually living in Asheville, North Carolina, which is actually 250 miles closer, is silly. And that's actually coming from a Total Wine brief. And lawyer Rob Epstein, who represented a plaintiff in the Granholm case, co-wrote a brief called 81 Wine Consumers, saying the National Association of Wine Tailors, which supports the retailer direct shipping, they argue that Tennessee laws not only hinder retailers' ability to access markets, they also negatively affect consumer choice, saying that availability is not a question of quantity, it is a matter of variety and selection. And not only that, is the internet has fulfilled the founder's vision of a national economic union. And a ruling is actually expected to happen in the spring or summer of this time. So I know I took a few minutes there to kind of set the background.
I'm so confused.
I feel like I was an LSAT.
First off, is there any questions? If there's any questions, let's go ahead and take it to our legal counsel, Brian, first.
Yeah, so basically take over, Brian. Here we go.
Can you give us the cliff notes?
Yeah, so the cliff notes on that are that the 21st Amendment allows the states to regulate in their own state however they want to decide to regulate alcohol. So states could keep prohibition after national prohibition ended. And I think Mississippi was the last state to abolish statewide prohibition. But states get the opportunity to do that. This is why you have some control states. This is why you have the 3-tier system. This is why you have ABCs in all of the states who get to regulate liquor however they want to regulate it. And in Kentucky, this issue came up. It's a post that I wrote in 2014 about the Maxwell Kickback case, which is the case that tried to challenge our seemingly silly situation that we have here, where Kroger has to have a liquor store separate, but right next door to it with a different door. But you can sell liquor in Walgreens and CVS and Target, and it's all based on a formula of how much groceries you sell. And what the court here decided, the Sixth Circuit decided here, was the 21st Amendment allowed Kentucky to have those sorts of regulations. And they had experts that talked about you didn't want liquor in grocery stores because kids and families are there. And those are the kinds of considerations that Tennessee is trying to bring up here for the residency requirement. But the case that I think is more important here, which Kenny mentioned, is the 2005 case, the Granholm case. And the KDA has been trying to get the whiskey equivalent of Granholm ever since 2005. And Granholm took the Tennessee argument and essentially threw it away. It said, sure, the 21st Amendment lets you regulate spirits, liquor in your own state, but it doesn't allow you to unfairly treat out-of-state businesses. And that's what was happening there. They only allowed in-state shipping and they didn't allow out-of-state. So the point is you got to treat everybody the same. You can't charge an out-of-stater, although we'd probably like to do that here, charge someone from Indiana more if they come here than you do a Kentuckian, but you can't do that. You got to treat consumers the same. You got to treat businesses the same. And that's what the Commerce Clause provides. So my prediction here is that the Tennessee law is going to get overturned based on the Commerce Clause, because you got to treat everybody equally, and they're just plain and simple not doing that.
And I think the other thing that I kind of want to talk about this, and this is why I asked, and this is also, I think Blake put it in chat that Brian's going to be putting his Venmo account for anybody to start adding dollars here, because we're asking for a lot of legal stuff for free. Was that shipping? This is one thing that has been, it's spearheaded in Kentucky. It made a lot of things with House Bill 400. However, there's some states that have allowed interstate shipping for a while. Now there's some states that allow reciprocal shipping. However, the shipping clauses of commerce, I believe, are wrapped up inside of here. So, Brian, do you see anything that could potentially change like nationwide shipping if this goes across the board?
So is this really like a legal question for Pursuit Spirits? Is that what we're getting at? No,
it's a legal.
There might be some interesting part about it.
I mean,
I'm just joking.
Well, I mean, seriously, you think about it. Like, this is a huge economic thing. Like, this is breaking down the barrier. Like, to say that Liquor Barn can now compete with Benny's. To say that Keg and Bottle can now compete with somebody down in Florida. Like, this is you're breaking down economic barriers here. And if you can find a bottle at a cheaper price at an online retailer, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. I don't think this is going to be the case to do it, but I think we're going to take baby steps till we get there, till we finally are at that point. One thing the Supreme Court is famous for doing is taking the most narrow approach to a decision that they can take. And they don't want to address things that aren't necessarily in the case. So here, my prediction is the Supreme Court will address this one narrow issue of, can Tennessee enforce a 2-year residency requirement? I think they're going to say no. But the court's not going to go any further than that until it gets a case that addresses nationwide shipping. But between Granholm and this, I think we're seeing a gradual erosion, and within the next few years, I think we'll be able to get nationwide shipping. Now, states don't have to do that, but they won't be able to allow in-state shipping either. They'll have to be all or none, and I think that'll encourage everyone to go all in.
Jordan, you want to remind everybody where you live?
I do. I live in Pennsylvania.
So you want to explain the rules of what happens in Pennsylvania and maybe what this could mean to you?
Explain how
Yeah.
terrible
So
your state is.
I saw somebody say NC hold my beer. I lived in North Carolina too, so I know how that state works. So it's a double whammy there. So Pennsylvania is a state-run, right? It's a state-run liquor system. It's really interesting what PA's done. So Pennsylvania, I've been here now for a number of years, but from my understanding is it used to be a lot worse than it is now, which is saying something, right? So it's all state-run. It used to be actually a decent state-run system. Selection's limited for what it is, right? But because they were one of the larger, quote-unquote, distributors in the nation, they always actually had pretty good prices for consumers. What's been really interesting, though, is over the last 2 years, especially when it comes to bourbon and other whiskeys, is now you see the state starting to charge more than MSRP, right? Which is pretty tough because they do have monopoly here. And then you'll see them do state-run lotteries for their limited editions, and they're charging like multitudes, almost as if somebody running the state-run system goes online, sees secondary pricing, and says, "Yeah, we'll just match that."
Right, charge more.
And then basically saying, well, at least you're supporting your state government by paying $600 for Booker's Rye.
Exactly. Right. So it's like an extra double whammy. Yeah, it's an extra double whammy here recently because not only is it a tight controlled system with limited selection, but now they're just gonna charge the consumer secondary rates to purchase bourbon. So it's a little rough in PA right now.
But I mean, when you think about it, wouldn't this actually benefit you if to say like this?
Don't get me.
I mean, you can talk about
100%,
North Carolina,
all for
Ohio, Pennsylvania, whomever.
Right, all for it.
Yeah,
all for it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
Now, what'll happen though is Amazon's. Everyone's concerned they're going to get into pharmacies and take over the pharmacy world, and they'll probably try to do that with alcohol shipping as well.
Yep.
Which it was interesting. I forget which justice it was, but one of them said to the Total Wine representative, so basically you want to be the Amazon of the liquor world. And his response was, well, no, I think that's Amazon's ambition or Amazon's game plan. We have a different business structure, but we would still like these laws repealed. So I don't think it's any secret to anyone that that'll probably be the route they take if some of this changes.
So Fred and Carla, I want to kind of pass this over to you a little bit too. We've talked about Amazon. There's a lot of people talking about it on the chat right now about what would actually happen if Amazon became this Uber retailer that you could then order spirits online from. Carla, I want to kind of get your opinion. Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I mean, it's a complicated issue, but I think, when you go back to the argument that Tennessee has that, if you don't have the 2-year residency requirement, people will be selling to minors or something. I mean, you're supposed to card people. I mean, I think that's a ridiculous argument. There are already laws in place to prevent that sort of thing. And I think that, it should be an open market. And I think that a lot of, what's happened here has, the laws have hamstrung some of our own distillers. When people come here and I had a friend who visited from LA for the first time and wanted to know if he could ship bottles back. And, they said, well, no, you can't, not now. We're working on that, and people just don't understand that. They don't understand why they can't buy things here and ship them back, much less, go online and buy them. But I don't think everybody who loves bourbon is suddenly going to rush to Amazon to buy it. It's going to be an option, but, I don't buy my liquor at Kroger either, So I don't think it's the downfall. I think, that the liquor stores have always battled the distilleries. And I think this is one of your topics here too. Like, it's different markets, I think. I mean, I think that liquor stores have wanted distilleries not to be able to sell so much because they're afraid that that's taking customers away from them. But I think it's a different customer who's going into a distillery and buying stuff than is going to a liquor store. So I guess I don't see it as like some big threat to the bourbon industry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Fred actually just put in the comments that Alexa's going to take over this podcast. So I'm
Right.
curious to what he thinks now.
Which
So we're not talking about selling screw caps or books or lamps or whatever the hell else Amazon sells, which is everything. We're talking about selling what is, should be considered a controlled substance. And the minute that we lose sight of the fact that we must have an absolute, as close as we can, as an absolute guarantee that the product is being consumed by the right age bracket and so forth, the minute we lose sight of that is when we will see another wave of prohibition. You're already starting to see the health groups come on really strong right now, linking all forms of alcohol to cancers, social media to underage drinking, and they're doing everything they can to ban alcohol advertising. They're doing everything they can to restrict the sale of alcohol. And this is not from the religious types. This is from the health groups. And so I think that this is going to be a very difficult business structure for Amazon or for anyone to really do this fully and to do it properly because of all the opposition. Now, the laws may do whatever, the Supreme Court may rule however they want, but as we know, this is a time that law and fact doesn't necessarily always hold the weight. Sometimes this mob mentality kind of takes over, and all it takes is for one underage person to get into someone's Amazon package that's filled with whatever. Maybe it's Smirnoff, or maybe it's a bourbon. Who knows? But all it takes is for one of those kids to do that, and for that kid to pass away from too much alcohol, and it's over. And this industry has been regulated so much. It's had 13 years of its livelihood taken away, and it wasn't until the early 1980s that you had people you had government agents still on site restricting what the distillers could do. So while I am all for the consumers and I want open markets and everything, I want everyone to keep in mind that what we have right now is a lot better than what we had during Prohibition, and it's also a lot better than what we had in 1955. So think about that for, as we push this, whatever you push, just make sure that it's for responsibility.
So I want to I just want to take like an antagonist point of that. And you see that Amazon, and people have put in the chat already, Amazon's already doing this in the UK. They're already doing it in the European Union.
Absolutely, they are.
You can ship bottles left and right across country lines, and it's not a problem. Why is it such a problem in the US?
Well, we have a lot of these draconian laws, and we also I feel like we're much more litigious. I do an event and I have to sign, 14 waivers regarding insurance, and I have to have a particular insurance just to show up into, someone's place of business and do a tasting. It's just this country is not comparative to a lot of other places because we're extremists here. We don't, it's not like the French or even, in Ireland, they've got this special liver that they're able to do their thing, but we don't teach in moderation like we should. It's an extremist point of view. And, in a perfect world, we could have this, but I just don't think that our country respects alcohol to the point where we could ever really have it.
So I'll take another thing. I'm going to give Blake a plug here too, because I come from the tech world. And when I look at the tech world, I see it as adapt or die. And I see what Blake is doing and what he's trying to do with Sealbox and being able to provide an avenue that he can legally ship things to people's doors and be able to bring a broader consumer market to places that they necessarily couldn't get these exact spirits. And so when I think about this and I think about the future of it, and I think about the 3-tier system, I think about all this, I think like something's got to change. Like the internet revolution's here. You can't do everything on handshakes and paper tablets trying to figure out what your inventory looks like. And in my opinion, like that's gonna be, it's got to be the next wave. It's got to be, how do you get to your consumers faster and cheaper than anybody else? And if they don't have to leave their office, their home, whatever it is, I see that as the future.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of agree with that. You think about some of these small distilleries who they're putting everything they have into the distillery, and then they get a small break, whether that's in a publication, whether that's a good review from a national writer or an award or something, and they get an influx of visitors to their website or social media, and the answer is, well, sorry, you have to come to Florida to be able to get our products, even though this national publication, and that's vital sales.
Hold on. That's a very different topic than shipping. What you're talking about is essentially setting up distribution points. That's completely different than the distiller shipping directly to somebody.
But a lot of these a lot of these distilleries, they can't go into multiple states because they don't have the case volume to, if they're producing 10, 12,000 cases a year, that may not even be enough to cover their state or their small little region of where they are. So then things like shipping, and, they're not going to ship 10 cases to California because they had, 60 orders come in that week. So that's where it gets tough to try to hit all 50 states and kind of predict where, somebody may read your article and want to buy a bottle. You got to meet the customer where they are a little bit. And it's tough to say, hey, thanks for the email, but hopefully we'll be in your state by 2022 or whatever the growth plan is. And a lot of these people, they can't get to that many states because, whether just production capacity doesn't allow that. And kind of on the 21 and plus thing, I completely agree with you. Like, I don't want my kids to be able to order a handle of vodka online and it show up at the doorstep. But the same guy who's checking the ID at the liquor store, you also have people looking for adult signature now. So that's where I'm like,
it's already happening.
To me, it's the same thing. If they're looking at adult signature, I mean, I've had plenty of boxes delivered. They look at my ID, or just I look like an old man now, so they're like, yeah, he's got bags under his eyes. He's got 21. He's 21 plus. So that's where I mean, I think anyone in this podcast will say, yeah, we don't want prohibition style laws, but at the end of the day, like where commerce in general is going, everyone wants everything delivered to their doorstep.
So
today.
I agree with everything that you said. And my point is not so much my belief as just as what I know the alcohol industry to be in a protective mode, and what I know the political and the lobbyist groups to be in a reactive mode. So what you have is a very prominent wholesaler lobby who is doing everything they can to block shipping, using that because what they have become, they've kind of become a de facto government arm in which they are able to guarantee, or at least to the best of their ability, guarantee that people are at least 21 when they're consuming alcohol. And when you get outside of that arm, they can't provide that guarantee. And the government cannot provide that guarantee. And we're essentially leaving it up to, somebody who is delivering a package. And, is that person having to take classes? If this is something that we want to really do.
But does just like a liquor store worker take classes? Like
they do.
The liquor store worker is
they
liable.
get training, especially bartenders and that kind of stuff.
I can't get my media samples from UPS because I'm not there to sign for them. So I've had to have them sent to the Air Commerce house.
And I'm sure Blake would be happy to tell you how difficult it is these shipping companies are to work with because they do have such high standards. But the fact is there's a lot going in underneath those standards. And that is where the industry that's what the industry's scared to death of, is that it gets in the wrong hands. And that's no different than if you leave your, who's liable if you leave your, the industry's no longer liable if somebody passes out and leaves their bottle on the table and their 15-year-old drinks that entire bottle. The industry doesn't care about that. The industry's not liable for that because it is not their fault that bottle was left out. They're concerned about where they are liable, just like the NFL is with concussions, just like motor vehicles are with driver's side airbags. They are concerned about liability. And for the alcohol industry, liability is always about government intervention. And I'm just telling you,
are they really concerned about that, or are they concerned about protecting the good old system they have right now?
No,
There's a lot of money at stake here with distributors and liquor stores that have been in the business forever, and they're trying to protect. So they're probably preaching that, but do they really care?
Let me ask you
this. Or are they just trying to protect their business?
Let me ask you this, Ryan. Let's say in the next year we have 3 underage people die of over drinking through something shipping. I'm not saying this has happened or it's going to happen. And a bill is introduced on the congressional floor to ban just completely ban alcohol shipping. Do you think they're going to use those 3 cases? And do you think the media is going to pick up on it?
Oh, no doubt.
No, I agree with that.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think them saying liability is their big concern, but they're more concerned about the money that they're going to lose out on this.
Are they cherry picking to say, well, look at but that is kind of how it goes. What's the ulterior motive? And that point kind of came up in the Supreme Court case we've started on as well, where I remember who it was, but he basically said, these sound like you're trying to protect your business interest and not, protectionary laws for the citizens of Tennessee. And, that's a hard thing to say because I think we could always find the extreme and say, yeah, but look at these 3 examples of people, kids who got drunk, got in a car accident, whatever it is. And you don't, because nobody can disagree with that. I mean, that's a terrible tragedy. But at the end of the day, are we impeding, free commerce because of these few examples? And
that is life. That is life.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Fred, but to play devil's advocate here with substances being sent in the mail, and I do hear you what you're saying. But I mean, it all depends on what lobbyists are really putting money behind it, right? Because I'll tell you right now, if you get an at-home pharmacy delivery, right, and some kids tear into it and they die from not even something that's a horrible substance, right? You better believe that's not going to go anywhere because Big Pharma is not going to let it. And at-home pharmacy delivery is not going to stop, right? So it really goes down to who wants to lobby harder. Is it going to be, free commerce? Is it going to be, different distilleries and different associations saying, hey, we need this to grow the industry as a whole, right? There's that New York Times article with, is Kentucky the next, Napa Valley? And honestly, if you want to draw people from all around the US and all around the world, yeah, you're going to need to be able to ship your goods right back from there. That's what people want. That's what tourism dollars are going to need, right? And that's going to take place at, small and large distilleries throughout. So it's really, I understand the whole dangerous substances and, but it really depends who's going to put the most money behind lobbying to make sure that it's going to either get in front of the press or not get in front of the press, right?
And here's the thing too. This is what's disappointed me about the entire process. And I know a lot of people on both sides, is that the distributor lobby is mostly all out against it. And I've always wondered, why haven't they created a solution to help make this work? Because they could really be the leaders in this entire thing, is saying absolutely, let's do shipping. Ship it straight to us and we'll deliver it. We see it right here in our backyard. You have people delivering alcohol, from their liquor store. Liquor Barn does this. They deliver straight to your house. 10, 15 years ago, that was unheard of. You know, I mean, so
Mhm.
we have seen some progress, but you do have a lot of people who are still very much against it, using those examples that I cited, and they will continue to use those. And until we can get people to work together for a common solution, and you also have to remember that, yes, there's money behind a lot of this, but you also have families who have single retail stores who are scared to death of Amazon. I've seen it in my world. I'm an author. I've worked with a lot of independent bookstores who, if I even have Amazon in my email, when I email them to them, they won't do a book signing with me. So people are scared to death of their livelihoods just completely going away because the likes of Amazon or someone like Blake, flips a switch and has, shipping booze to everybody in the world. So you can't, there's a lot of sides to this. It's not a simple solution.
I mean, I think you can see too why distributors, would be against this too and not want to push forward for this, right? Because say Amazon says, all right, the law's changed, we're going to do this. Hey, we're only shipping out of our centers in like Indiana, Washington, and, pick another state on the East Coast, right? North Carolina, right? So those distributors are like jumping up and down for joy. They're like, man, we are going to get like the mother load of alcohol orders through Amazon. Everyone else is like, oh crap. Right. So I can see why as a whole, right, that association wouldn't want to do that because you're not sure. It's like playing Russian roulette, right? Are you going to be the lucky lottery winner? Maybe not. So I could totally see that side of your argument for sure of why they, I see personally why they wouldn't want to team up and be all for that because again, it's all about money. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's not about
usually is
public service. That's all it is.
Get rid of distributors. Why are they there?
And that's, I mean,
seriously,
we've had retailers on the store before, or on the show before. I mean, even it was David Driscoll, K&L, and he said it's the most legalized form of mobs that there is what distributors are.
It's because of that. It's because of repeal. It's because of that law that let all the states do what they wanted to.
State rights.
But it is a balance of money and morality too. I mean, you're saying here in Kentucky, so many counties have gone wet, since in the past 5 years that I never thought would. And it's because they finally realized, this devil alcohol that we've been against because it's, it's a morality issue. Hey, it's money too, so, I mean, there is a balance there and there always has been. So yes, some people will be against the shipping for those reasons that you cite, Fred, but some of it is bottom line. So, it's a more complex issue than just one simple thing.
And I'll say this is kind of my last thought on it is that I think we can all agree here that it's best for us as enthusiasts that we have shipping. I think we can all agree to that. But the concerns that I have is that we don't have our ducks in a row when it becomes industry-wide and bad things happen. That's my biggest concern. And right now, not all teams are playing together to make it work. And all teams need to play together in order for alcohol shipping to be a success within the United States of America.
That's a fair point.
That's a very fair point.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this for almost 45 minutes now. I mean, this is
see y'all later.
Like the
Good night,
advanced
everyone.
session
Enjoyed
of
it.
I need a new drink. I know.
I mean, but this is a hot topic. Like this is a very big thing because this changes the consumer aspect across the entire United States of America, no matter where you are. This actually changes it. So it's good. I kind of want to give a few plugs that I saw in the chat. Jeremy Kendrick, he had actually asked Fred, he said, you talked about the fear of prohibition actually coming back a few times. Like, is this a real thing? And then somebody else also asked, I believe it was Bourbon Blind, said that, I can sell an AR-15 with 10,000 rounds to my neighbor next door, but I can't sell him a rare bottle of bourbon. So there's definitely a lot of things that are in the laws here that, could definitely use some massaging going forward. We'll put it that way.
There's a difference. There's the Second Amendment that if you tried to restrict that guy from selling the 10,000 rounds and the AR-15, he'd probably shoot half the people trying to stop him.
Now, Fred.
Yes. Don't go down that road. We'll never get to
the alcohol's not as protected as the firearm, and I think that's an interesting argument, but the Second Amendment has been how many times has it been to the Supreme Court? Brian, a few times.
He ran out of digits to actually start counting.
Right.
So.
Yeah, this is now Fox and Friends, and not the Bourbon Community Roundtable. So can you do what you do best and move it along?
And let's go ahead to the next topic.
Do we have another topic?
Yeah.
For tonight.
I mean, I tell you what, like, I think, not to say that some of us have a stake in this, but I mean, it's a really good argument and a really good topic for most of us just to talk about in general. So, but the next thing I do want to talk about is House Bill 200 that's now started coming to Kentucky.
Another bill.
Yes.
Can we save this for the next round?
40-minute talk.
Rare is.
Sorry, we're gonna
do Four Roses. I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, we're gonna keep talking about laws because this is what moves the
now
needle.
We're moving on to the squawk box.
This is what moves the needle around here. But really, Carla had actually alluded to it a little bit earlier. The one thing that House Bill 200 is allowing us to do is being able to do, or should I say, what it's actually set out to do is to allow distilleries to carry distillery-only releases that are no longer allowed to go into distribution, which is actually the current law is that anything that a distillery has, say Heaven Hill, they have their William Heaven Hill 16 year, and at least has to go out to distribution and makes their way out to a few different retail stores. Now, the big proponent against this is that the liquor stores are saying that you're competing with me. You're not giving me the same exact products. On the other side, the distilleries are saying, yeah, we are. We're giving you store picks. We're giving you access to barrels. And I kind of want to put up to you all, like, do we see this? Because I guess this is also another thing, I guess you see it in Scotland and Ireland and other different places, is that you can go to different distilleries and you can actually like thieve out of a barrel and take your own bottle home, which you can't really do that at any major distillery. So should there or should there not be a law that says that Kentucky distilleries can have a distillery only release that doesn't actually make its way out to any retail stores? Do you think it actually fights with the actual retail store side?
I think the distilleries ought to be able to sell and ship whatever the hell they want to sell and ship. I mean,
crazy idea.
Why make a special exception for it and just kill all the exceptions and just let them sell what they want to sell? I mean, we've already got special rules for the distilleries to be able to, we've increased the pour size, we've increased things that they can sell on site, and we're working on shipping from distilleries. Just let them sell whatever they've got. And they already charge a premium over for the gift shop release that you can find in any store. They already charge a premium. Let them do that. Let them do whatever they want, and let the market get what they want.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that because I think, again, it's two. I think in large part it's two sets of customers. I think, I'm not going to go to a distillery to get something I know I can get at a retail store. But if I'm in from out of town, I'm also not going to go driving all around looking for a liquor store probably where I can find it cheaper. I'm going to buy it at the distillery because I'm there and I want somebody to sign it or whatever. I just think it's too, you're not going to comparison shop if you're a tourist, and I think if I do want something special that they have at the distillery, I'll go buy that,
Agreed.
Let's go ahead and Carl, I'll throw it back to you. So, we've had Guthrie from Toddy's on the show before. Mm-hmm. He's very much against this sort of thing. But say you are Guthrie and you own Toddy's right there in Bardstown, Kentucky. You're right between Heaven Hill and Willett and Barton, and along all the stops along the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Do you think that you would see less business because of it?
Oh, maybe some. I mean, I always tell people about Toddy's though. I send people there all the time. I still think a lot of people from out of town, they're not going to go there anyway. They're not going to know about it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think it would be substantially different.
Sorry. So I saw something on the chat here. So I read the quote before I actually saw who it was. So Ted Finnick actually came on the show tonight from the new satire site, and he said, "I asked Drew Colesby to sign my will at 4-year rye, and he looked at me like I was the dumbest person alive." So, I read that before I actually saw who it was, but now thanks for making it on the show tonight.
Good old
But Fred or Blake or Jordan, I kind of want to figure out, what do you all think in regards of what would this mean to if this actually expanded out? I mean, like, there's St. Augustine Distillery. Like, I know that there's more distilleries that are popping up around Florida. What would it mean if they couldn't actually carry the products in the retail stores and it tried to become like a destination sort of thing? And by the way, this is also something that I remembered, is that the Retailers Association said, well, what if Buffalo Trace was to say you could only buy Pappy Van Winkle at Buffalo Trace? Well, that's not fair to people in Paducah that have to drive 3.5 hours to Buffalo Trace to get a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle.
Can't buy Pappy anywhere.
I gotta chime in here. So all right. Look, a lot of these models are built on their portfolios. All right. So Buffalo Trace is not going to shoot their Pappy bullet and lose all their equity for everything else. And you got to realize too, this puts the distillers very vulnerable, because they put out a lot of them put out a lot of shelf turds. And it's going to be really embarrassing when someone doesn't buy their distillers only pick, and then it gets released back out into the wild. What they're basically doing is, the Kentucky Bourbon Trail had 1.5 million visitors last year. Buffalo Trace had more, 250,000 visitors last year. So what they're essentially doing is they're trying to tee off on their visitor centers to sell special bottles. I don't think anyone is really going to hurt retailer relations, because they have entire portfolios, because the retailers can retaliate and say, well, fuck you. You don't want to give me, Buffalo Trace. If I'm not carrying Wheatley vodka anymore. So they can't blow that on this. And then, who are you looking at really is going to benefit from this? I mean, I think the best distillery that could pull this off is probably Woodford Reserve, which has had a lot of misses with their limited editions, but they got a very rabid fan base. I don't know. I think
if you're a distillery, you wouldn't want everything to be only at your distillery. That doesn't make any sense from a business standpoint. You'd want stuff out on the stores too. Maybe you have a few things that are there to draw people, but you wouldn't want everything to just be at your distillery.
I mean, this bill to me is a lot like, what?
Why do we need
we're going to add another bathroom to the visitor center. Who cares?
We have enough laws already. I mean, come on.
What if Total Wine said, okay, now we don't care about anything that comes out of your distillery. We're not going to sell handles of Four Roses yellow label or mustard color label, whatever they're on now, because they want to do a distillery only release. Like it to me, I'm for the bill because I'm for free commerce and let the distilleries run a business how they want to run the business. I don't think somebody, 2 tiers removed should be able to tell them what they can and can't sell to somebody who walks in. But at the same time, like, retailers have plenty of, power in this too. They're not like helpless, like, oh my goodness, we're never gonna have Pappy again. Like, no, just you sell a lot
the
of
big stores are, but the small family stores are vulnerable with this, because
they are. But I mean, that's like taking a very narrow view too. You're thinking like, all right, I'm only gonna go into my local liquor store only to buy. I'm just gonna pick like Jack Daniels, not Jack Daniels, Jim Beam. I'm only gonna go buy Jim Beam, right? And if I can't get Jim Beam, I'm not going to buy any other beer or alcohol there. But people are going to liquor stores still, because you're not going to be like, all right, time to stock up for Saturday's party. Let me go down to Buffalo Trace, shoot over to Maker's Mark. All right, let me backtrack to Woodford, and then I can stop at like Willett on the way home and see if they have anything for this part. Right now, that's just not going to happen. Right.
All I can say is Bullet has tattooed bottles of bourbon, and that's probably what they're going to be doing. They're going to be doing stupid shit with their bottles.
I say, if people want to buy that after a tour.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I look at it. I think like it's okay because guess what? The luster is gonna be gone. Like and we can use this William Heaven Hill as a reference. Everybody goes crazy like when it first gets announced, but guess what? There's so many of them, and it's only at the distillery, and they just sit there because nobody cares anymore.
Right.
It's just gonna be that point where that luster is just gonna be gone, and you're just gonna be shopping at your regular store again.
And also, your regular store doesn't have enough shelf space for everything that's out there now. I mean, it's like it's not like the old days when there were like 8 bourbons. I mean, it's just there's not enough room for all this stuff as it is.
And kind of to your point about Toddy's doesn't like this kind of thing, but to me, I don't know his business model all that well, but he is nationwide known for his store picks. Like that doesn't seem like something that's going to stop him from doing what he does.
Yeah, but he's actually getting squeezed out of picks because his store's so small. Like Russell's just said, hey, you don't sell enough of everything else because you're a small store. You don't get any picks this year. So he is getting squeezed
You're
out.
not going to see a Twix 8 this year. You're not going to see a
there's
Twix
no
8.
Twix 8, but
that is a problem, but like that doesn't deal with the distillery only picks.
No, sure.
In my opinion.
No, sure. But what, at what point does he have to offer then? If he can't do store picks or
got to start tattooing bottles.
And I don't think
Ryan, you bring up a really good point, and Blake does as well here. What we're talking about here is we're really talking about the death of the small retailer, and that's what all of our concerns are with this. Is that, and by the way, those guys were everything we've talked about.
They're the ones
tonight
that brought him to the dance. I mean,
was about.
You always say, Fred.
That's true. That's true. We have an affection for them, unlike any other kind of. It's kind of like a small independent bookstores. We care about them. We want to go in there. We want to fill the bottles. We want to talk to the owner, and it started long before this bill. It started with Total Wine. It started with a lot of these other conglomerates. It started with Walmart and CVS and Walgreens and whoever else is carrying them. That's a chain. It has more buying power, and they've been getting squeezed out, for years. And the fact that we're hearing the likes of Campari squeezing out someone like that is what should piss every single one of us off. Yep. Every single one of us should be pissed off. No one who's brought bourbon to a dance, like Lincoln Road, package store, should ever be turned away from a barrel pick.
Yeah, and it's happening with all of them. There's a lot of short-sightedness going on right now, and and we've talked about we're gonna have an episode about it, but
speaking of,
I don't think there should be a law, but you got to look at somebody like Toddy's or a smaller store that that's what they hang their hat on. Is we have special releases and barrel picks, and it just kind of squeezes them out even more. So, and to be fair, Guthrie's a good friend of mine, so I'm sticking up for him.
But speaking of bringing people to the dance, everybody who's bought Eagle Rare for all these years, will you go spend $2,000 on a 20-year-old version of Eagle Rare when in what was it, probably 20? I think it was 2015 and 2016's Eagle Rare 17-year-old was actually 19 years, but didn't come in a glass bottle with eagles in it.
So, two eagles.
In it.
2 eagles. I mean, that's more than 2 grams right there.
Things are going to get weird. We got 2 eagles.
All right. Well, I put it actually in the chat because I said, do we want to talk about something that sparks a discussion real quick as our last question, or we talk about new releases? And Blake had already brought up a new release of Double Eagle Rare, but we're going to leave that one aside because people ask for that.
Oh, I tried to transition so well.
I know. It was a good effort. Really good effort.
I know, but there's
Kenny
another,
wasn't going to let that happen.
well,
That's only him.
There's a reason why I run the show, Blake. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm on mute now. I can't even.
Man, when Kenny wants to assert that authority, boy.
Heroic effort, though. Great transition.
Yeah, it's not that at all. But honestly, what I want to do is I want to be able to bring up a discussion because this is actually it's a fun topic. And this is actually something that somebody had actually messaged me on Facebook and said, you should bring this to the roundtable. And I was like, this is actually a really good topic. So, and this is something that is really kind of quick. Each one of you can kind of think about in your heads here just for a second. We'll go first because we kind of started it here, is that if you were creating your own whiskey label, do you create something new or do you revive an old defunct brand? And we look at this in a few different ways. You know, Ryan and I, we created Pursuit series. We kind of created our own label, try to do something different because we had an audience that knew us and so on and so forth. You take the flip side of that. You take Jim Rutledge. He just came out with the Jim Rutledge Distillery, but he took an old label, Cream of Kentucky, and tried to capitalize on it. So if you were to come up with an idea of a new whiskey line, what would you do?
I know what Fred would say because he always pulls the example of, I got my grandpappy's recipe. You know,
Uncle Grandpa.
Yeah.
I guess it depends. If I had somebody in my lineage that had a background in a story to that I could tie myself back to, I'd probably revive an old brand. But otherwise, I don't give a shit. I'd start my own.
No, we didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, we had a choice. I mean, it's
I think I'll kick it off. I think I'm right there with Ryan, right? I think we, over the years, we've made not fun of, well, yeah, I guess we did make fun of so many people who, small distilleries, large distilleries, they revive this quote unquote brand that somehow they come up with this crazy convoluted backstory, right? Really, they just bought the IP and now they're just marketing it, right? And it's all about, listen, if you don't have anything in your family and you really don't have a connection, just start something new. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Everything started at some point, right? So if you want to start something and be the next great bourbon, sure, stick a stake in the ground, say, boom, we started right now, 2019. We're only going to grow from there, right? Don't try and tell me oh, I came across this recipe in somebody's closet 50 years ago. I let it sit. I came across it again. Boom, here we are. It's no, that's not going to cut it. Come on. We're past that.
Yeah.
But so what if you're nobody?
No, I
think about it. What if you're nobody?
I agree from our perspective, but at the end of the day, you got to look at what sells. And I think it was Reed Mittenbuehler's book, Bourbon Empire, is talking about most of the major brands are just named after an old guy, and it's a name. You think of Jack Daniels, Evan Williams, Pappy Van Winkle. There's all these names attached to it. So I'm going with old teetotaler because no one in my family really drank. So I think it's just going to be a picture of me on the front.
Here.
Breaking barriers in the Reaver family.
Yeah, just me giving a thumbs up. And side note, a sample was actually sent to my mom's house, which is even funnier because I don't know how they got the address, but
the one that leaked.
Yeah, the one that leaks now. She's pretty upset with me because her house smells like bourbon now, and she doesn't drink it all. So she's got her friends coming over. They think she's,
insider story and news there. But anyway, go ahead.
But no, that's I think there's something about having a name on a bottle that, in some historical references, that it just sells whether we like it or not. You think about a lot of the major brands and even brands that are getting brought back out, there's a lot of research being done. So unless you have, the #1 podcast in bourbon, it's hard to just come up and just say, hey, this is my brand. You should go buy it. So some of that historical background helps.
I think you at least have to sound like you've got history. There's some brands that are making up their own name that, they use some kind of old timey sounding name, and they've got the old timey script and swirls, and they've got some backstory that they've made up, and that's sort of what you need because the consumers are looking for that, or they're looking for some kind of horse on the label or the closure or something like that. You might need that to sell. It's not what I would want to do. I'm more like Jordan. I would say just put your own name on it, take some pride in it, and do it. And it's a tougher road to try to sell it based on what you got in the bottle. But that's what I'd try.
I would get on eBay and buy all the empty Pappy Van Winkle bottles, move to China, and start selling, rectified whiskey in China. That's what I would do. I was kidding.
I love it.
Yeah, I've been approached by quite a few people about doing a bourbon, and I've always been like, no, it doesn't really interest me. I'm just really happy being in the media space of bourbon. The day that I ever do, put my name on a label or do something like that, I don't know. It doesn't feel right for me. I like covering the stuff. I like being as objective as I can. And I just love this. I love it so much, and I'm proud of both of you and Ryan and Kenny for what you've done with the Pursuit series. I've generally liked what you've sent me to taste, and I'm really content on writing about the stuff and talking about it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you'd basically shoot yourself in the foot if you'd start your own, because you're like, nobody's gonna.
Well, he's the Uber guy. I mean, he is the guy of bourbon. So
I think we all know that Fred would call it.
So sorry, Carla. I also there's a quote from Ted Finnick of Bourbon Weekly. He said, "Let's team up for the Minnick and Finnick bourbon."
I think we all know that Fred's bourbon would be called Old Ascot.
If I were ever to do one, it would be Old
Yes.
Ascot. Yeah,
Well,
from my
Barrel pick
grandpappy's
coming out.
recipe, by the way.
New barrel pick coming out.
Totally
this
gonna
summer.
have a new article out tomorrow about this.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. Well, what I would do is go back and find one of the women in bourbon history and put her name on a bottle, because there are far too many men's names on these bottles, and that's what I would do. And I would not claim that woman's story, but I would tell that woman's story, create a new bourbon, put her name on the story, and tell the story. That's what I would do.
See,
Well, I
think
know a
that,
book where you can find a lot of those women.
I do. I know too. Yeah. See, the research would
couple
be
names.
easy. Either that, or I'd put Carrie Nation's face on it and call it Old Battle Axe. One of those two.
Oh, that'd be good, boy. She'd be
Old
turning the
Battle
grave
Axe?
too if you did that.
Yeah.
Carla, we're going to talk barrel picks after the show, so just
Okay.
we're going to talk secondary stickers.
All right. Okay.
Well, I think everybody's had a chance to go and figured out what they would want to do. Is there any other rebuttals of why, pro or cons, why you wouldn't go any other way before we close it out?
No, you got any more amendments you want to cover?
Yeah, I know. That's what I think. So anyway, Brian's Venmo account is.
Yeah.
But
So
you know,
make sure
just-
it's friends and family.
yeah, friends and family. But man, I want to say thank you all so much for joining. This was a lively discussion. I think yes, we hit on a lot of laws tonight. I think we hit on another good
Very
subject.
serious.
Well, I mean, I think
It was the advanced roundtable.
that's
Hey,
right.
listen, I tell you what, we
Bourbon.
had. I didn't get a chance to really brag on Carla, but she is an amazing editor. She's been covering bourbon since the 1990s. I think she should be in the Bourbon Hall of Fame. Her book, Barrel Strength Bourbon, is amazing.
She makes Fred's writing sound good.
That's really my greatest achievement.
It's a big, so that's why I'm kind of buttering her up a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fred.
But
No,
she, I think that this discussion tonight was very poignant, and something we're all very passionate about, and we can never lose sight of how much we love this and how much it means to all of us. And at the end of the day, that's if it goes away, it sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah, when
absolutely.
there's Andrew said we should do a drinking game that includes taking a shot every time Fred says he loves bourbon. So we'd be pretty.
We'd be drunk and pissed pretty soon.
Yeah, it wouldn't take long.
I also give a shout out to Rare Bird up there because we were talking about old labels. He goes, "Yeah, in 200 years, I'm going to create the old Fireball label when I have the opportunity."
Mark Brown will come out of the grave and sue the shit out of you.
Which is funny because some of these labels were like Fireball equivalent, 40, 50 years ago. And now we're like, oh man, they have.
Right.
Well, good. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this out. So anyway, thank you so much for everybody that joined us tonight. I'm going to let everybody go ahead. I'm going to go from left to right that I have on my screen here. So Blake, I'm going to let you go ahead and go first.
Cool. Thanks for having me. It's always fun. Carla, thank you for joining us. This has been great. I'm Blake from Bourboner, BOURBONR, and I did get a couple notifications during this roundtable that the Bourboner Seal Box new riff pick is selling. So feel free to check that one out as well. Go ahead and throw a plug out there. Yeah, Sealbox SEELBACHS. But no, guys, always a good time. Thanks for having me.
Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. This is Jordan from Breaking Bourbon, one of the three guys who runs the site at Breaking Bourbon on all social media and Patreon. Check us out for daily release calendars, articles, and reviews.
And Brian.
All right, this is Brian with Sipping Corn. Thanks again for having me. Pleasure to have you here, Carla. There's Bourbon Plus. There's Bourbon Justice in the background. You can check me out on all social media, Sipping Corn and bourbonjustice.com. Have a great month till the big number 30 comes up for the next one, guys. Thanks.
Any bills by the 15-minute increment?
Yeah. Oh man.
6-minute increments.
Yeah, come on. What do you think? He's charity?
Listen. You know, if you spin up a machine on Amazon, you basically get billed by the minute of what you use. So if you could do that in the lawyer world, yeah, that sounds great. Like we'll just take the tech side, apply it to the law side. I think it might actually.
It all comes back to tech for Kenny.
Together, Kenny. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I see people as a barrier sometimes, but
He's trying to cut me out all the time.
Kenny's going to become Borg.
Chopping block.
Carla, go ahead.
Well, thank you. I'm Carla Carlton. Thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. I hope to come back someday. I'm at thebourbonbabe.com. You can find my book there, or at theevilamazon.com, or your local bookseller. I'm also at Carla Carlton at Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to Bourbon Plus magazine.
I love that poster. I gotta get one.
Thank you.
I think it's sweet.
Yeah, for anybody that wasn't watching, Carla and Brian, they both put their posters behind them tonight, so it was good to have some good backgrounds. You know, in our side, you know, Fred and Ryan, you know, this is a great discussion, and I loved being able to.
Great.
And Fred, you really hit the nail on the head here. I mean, this was a passionate discussion, you know, because we all have something to say about this, because whether it's, you know, you own your own business, Ryan, and you love commerce and free trade. You know, Fred has another side of it where he looks at the community aspect. He looks at families. He looks at what could actually be the outcome of it. And I'm at the end of me, I'm just like tech. Yeah, that's the only way I look at it.
How can I code this?
Well, I mean, we all have different viewpoints, but
Sure.
they're all different,
And they're all valid.
They're all valid. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the fact that we do it respectfully, you know, that's what makes me proud of this discussion. Is we had it could have gotten intense, but everybody respected one another, and that's what's important. Also, it's what's lacking in society in some ways.
It needs more bourbon.
You have to have these discussions to make progress, because if you don't, you know, everybody gets on their side and just kind of doesn't hear anyone and doesn't make any progress, because they're just going to believe what they believe, and that's it. So yeah, it was good to hear everybody's different viewpoints and how we can all make this work together as a friend family.
Our
bourbon family,
our Bourbon Community Roundtable family.
Things are too black and white. They need to be amber. That's what's
exactly. Oh, there you go.
Man, tagline for the podcast.
Yeah, I can't top that. So
Brian trademarked it really quick. So Carla, you better.
I'm out of here.
Somebody call a lawyer.
So, Kenny, I just got one last thing. It is someone mentioned it on the chat, and I would not do this unless it was kind of mentioned. But I would like to plug my Amazon Prime show, Bourbon Up. The latest episode featured the late great Dave Pickerel in my interview with him, and it was a month before he died, and he talked about what his legacy, what he hoped people would think is what his legacy would be. And he also told me what people thought of me and my palate. So if you want to check that out, you know, I highly recommend watching it.
Yeah, I did watch it, and I have to give kudos to you as well for sticking to your guns. Not gonna give it away, but you know, when people they say you're a critic, you are a critic. So it's gonna be interesting for hopefully people that put a little teaser out there for them. Let's put it that way.
Now I'm going to go watch.
Yeah, you need to go watch.
No, I will.
Go do it.
But thank you again, everybody that joined on. We didn't have the numbers up on our end, so I have no idea what the total number is. I'm sure somebody will put it here in the chat soon. But thank you so much for everybody that joined. Thank you everybody that was on the chat that was here tonight. A lot of great discussions. You know, Ryan, go ahead and close it out, because I know you like to. Let's plug some reviews, plug some social, and whatever.
Okay. Well,
I'm just gonna hand it to you.
I'm well coordinated, boys. Well coordinated.
Transition. We have.
all right. Well, first of all, Carla, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on and
Thank
your
you.
perspective. Hope
Thank
you come
very
back
much.
soon. And no, just This is like you always say, it's a fan favorite, a crowd favorite. We love doing these. I'm glad that people enjoy these and tune in and keep tuning in. And please hit us up. Let us know what topics you want to discuss, want to hear what you're passionate about, because we are you and we're here for you. So with that, we'll see you next time. Oh, yeah.
Paul says we had a roundtable record tonight of 108 people.
Nice.
Wow. It was me.
Carla did it.
My whole family's out there.
Fantastic.
Bourbon Babe in the house.
That's right.
Sorry, I had to get that in before we cut out.
Lawyers watching it.
You told me to close out, Kenny, and I tried. And
I know, I had to break it up. I'm sorry.
But with that, yes, if you please leave reviews for us, please contact us on social media. Let us know how we're doing or how we're sucking. We love hearing from you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Yeah, cheers.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
All right. That's a wrap. So thank you so much, everyone. I mean, 108, that's awesome. I guess
That's great.
I guess the social posts really boosted it up. Gotta give
You're
Laura some
yelling
credit.
at Laura.
It's like
we did
Instagram.
We did a great job. This is the first time I remember, a bunch of us tweeting and Instagramming what we had on the table ready to drink ahead of time. So maybe it got people ready to tune in.
Yeah, we should work
kind
on
of a
that.
good way to go of like, hey, what's everyone drinking? Because as kind of generic as that post seems, it gets people talking.
It does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. It always does. But I actually didn't think about it when we opened this up. So
Yeah.
what is everybody drinking?
Microphone.
Probably drinking your microphone.
We know it.
I am. I love my
I know what
microphone.
Jordan's drinking.
Yeah.
I've been drinking a Lincoln Road package store pick from a few years ago.
You were drinking that the other night on the radio.
Yeah, well, Rare Breed emailed me the other day, and he said he cited my review on this as being like what helped, put Lincoln Package on the map. And I went back to tasting some other stuff. And it's like that dude has a brilliant barrel picking palate, and it just got me. That email got me, kind of nostalgic for Lincoln Road package store picks, and most of them are Russell's Reserve.
Fred, I wish you would just record like the way you are right now.
Lean back.
Actually, I will say never do that because we don't want to pick up any of the jumbling of the
Beard scruffles.
Yeah, the beard scruffles.
Yeah, that would be bad.
But it's a Rare Bird, but he had a good laugh on the chat.
What did I call him? Rare Breed?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry about that.
Close
He
enough.
actually is a rare breed, so it's okay.
Well, for fuck's sake, man, there's so
accept it.
much rare shit going on with the wild turkey. Rare bird, rare breed.
So we're going to talk about releases on the next roundtable. Is that the?
I mean, the only reason, you had brought up the 20-year Eagle. Basically, it was that one, the Angel's Envy, Oloroso, the Four Roses, and honestly, what I was going to talk about was does anybody care?
I mean, can we just talk about the innovation that Angel's Envy has brought by changing up the finishing barrels that they use every other day?
Hold on now.
I mean, it was a PR dream.
No, listen, they got those barrels at the same time they got their port barrels. They just couldn't get as many, and you know what? They're Oloroso, so they're not as sweet. Actually, I like it a lot better than the regular.
Well, I'm sure it's good, but there's been a lot
What
of
the hell is Oloroso?
barrel finish. It's
Another sherry.
kind of sherry.
It's a drier one.
There's
some of
no
those
Oloroso
finishes, but I mean that thing was everywhere. You're not gonna believe it.
Look.
Guess what Angel's Envy just did, and I'm sure it's good.
Yeah, and why so long? I mean, I haven't tried it yet, but damn, that's a long ass time.
Yeah.
Well,
The other thing that I kind of was
Marketing.
wondering about it was it's marketing. Is it a extension?
Why are
of the
they
line?
always trying to hide what they make
That's true.
behind something?
But I mean, is it a line extension or is it just like a rare release that they're only going to have somewhere? I don't know.
Time, isn't it?
no, they've got they're starting a new series. It's called they're starting a new
like the distillery thing, right?
Lincoln Cellars or something
Yeah.
like that.
yeah,
from the
Cellar,
Cellar.
the Cellar series.
Yeah.
And they're all going to be barrel finishes. They are going to come out with a straight bourbon at some point. And their thing is like they've been doing everything and they just haven't had time to do that one. And I get that. And they also just lost, one of their key people in Connor O'Driscoll to Heaven Hill. Mm-hmm. And then they lost their marketing front person to a mezcal company. So Angels Envy's lost some key people in recent weeks. And, that is a small company. They're great people. They do a good job with what they do, but they are small, despite having Bacardi backing.
I was about to say, I was like, was Connor really a big blow to them? Like, he wasn't even around for...
No, he wasn't around that long, but I think it was like what they had hoped, he would become. Mm-hmm. I think because he, Connor, wherever
I don't know the guy. You've met him, so
yeah. Wherever things went with Brown Corbin, he had the resume. So, yeah. And he had that resume where, that's not a bad spot for him at Heaven Hill, and I did think it was interesting in his interview with me. He referred to his previous positions as Little League, and Heaven Hill being the New York Yankees. So I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean that he's right when he says Little League. I mean, I'm sure he's waiting for the break, and just like any of us in any of our industries, if you catch a good break, yeah, you'll take it. Like,
for sure.
I'm
still waiting for a podcast to call me.
You're in for Joe Rogan to be like,
I'm for hire.
God damn it. There goes Ryan. But I mean, honestly, it's just one of those things that, yeah, if you catch the break and the opportunity is right, I mean, I'm sure the distilling industry, I always bring it back to tech, like the tech industry, like in any industry, it's manufacturing as well. Like nobody gives a shit at their employees anymore. Like you figure out everything for yourself. Like you're number one. And so the idea that you stick around somewhere at a company for 40 years, like that idea is gone. I don't think it applies to the distilling industry either. So
while we're talking about craftsmanship, I wanted to talk about some craftsmanship that happened.
Ooh, we got to see these Valentine's Day.
That's a fin on top of the bag.
It's a nice dorsal fin.
That is awesome.
Go ahead and I feel like this should be one of those like the Pinterest things where it's like this is what it was supposed to be, and
that's actually what it is.
That's pretty close to where. Glad we got that in. I just want to throw that in.
All right, the non-shark related thing, I didn't get a chance to bring this up on the show. So, Kenny, when you had mentioned, and they made a good point, right? So you go to like Scotland or you go, overseas, and yeah, you can thief a barrel and you can fill your own bottle and bring it home, right? But that made me think about Angel's Envy as we were talking, because you can now go there and you can sign up and it's like, one day a month or one day a week, something like that. You can fill your own bottle on the line and label it and bring it home with you. So how is that any different?
You can do that at Knob Creek too, right?
I guess what I'm trying to get at is if those folks are doing it, why is no one else taking advantage of doing something like that and allowing people to thieve their own bottle or do some like barrel proof?
Because these bourbon companies don't care about their customers.
No, don't. We're not going there. We're not going there yet. Let's not go there.
All right, I won't ruin
it. But the way this is what I see. So you talk about Angel's Envy. What Angel's Envy doesn't put out is other than their standard product. And so when you're going and you're getting your own bottle and you're signing it, it's just your own standard product. Like you just have to be there. I mean, that's like going to Maker's Mark and dipping your own wax. There's really nothing different.
Your own wax.
Yeah. I don't know what the second part is because I think I lost my train of thought. But
I mean, so but if you think about that, right? So let's like take this back a little bit. They could replicate that experience, though, right? We lost Blake. You could. I mean, so you could. So let's use something like Jim. Who do I want to go with here? Let's use Heaven Hill, and let's use.
Are those Legos there on his backside?
let's use Elijah Craig barrel proof, right? What they could do is they could dump a bunch of barrels, have a new batch, and then really just refill the barrels. And the consumer experiences, they know exactly the proof that's coming out and everything else. They're probably going through enough, in a given day. Shit, I don't care. You can line the barrel with steel inside, so it's not aging any differently from then on out, right? But really, it's just about mimicking that experience for consumers. I'm surprised no one's done that yet. Like, that's actually shocking, because then you're like, oh, this is like Disneyland for adults at this point.
We will do it at Pursuit Series.
Great.
We'll do that. But, so are you saying that Elijah Craig barrel picks should just be like...
No, don't even go barrel picks, right? So say they do it at a well, we're back to the distiller only talk, but say they just have like the next Elijah Craig barrel proof line is going to be, I don't know, 132 proof, right? 132.1.
Oh, you just go thieve your own.
Thieve your own. They dump a bunch of barrels, they back it up, they refill that barrel, 3 times a day. It's a fake looking barrel with steel inside, and just thieve your own bottle, right? How cool is that? Wouldn't you pay for that experience? I know people going to Kentucky for the first time would. Like, oh, I can thieve my own bottle of a barrel. They don't need to know that it's like...
I'd probably do it once, and I'll live
we
got family that lives there. We'd still do it.
I'm just surprised no one's done that yet. That thought hit me. I was like, oh, this is like a great opportunity.
And you're just running into all sorts of tax issues by putting different whiskey into the same barrel.
But it could be a fake looking barrel, right? Think about that.
Isn't that what they do at the
Disneyland? I suppose you're right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Dream killer, Brian.
I know.
Isn't that sort of what they do at the Jim Beam Experience downtown? Where you bottle your own thing and then it goes, the Jim Beam Experience downtown, isn't that kind of like that? Where you bottle it and it goes over and then it's not out of a barrel though. You're just, I don't know. It's kind of like that. It's like build a bottle.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
You pick like the $20 wand that goes with.
I mean,
that's to build a bear. It's a racket.
Kenny's basement. Like, sign me up. Give me the fast pass for that one.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I mean, I'll probably be getting somebody in trouble here, but in there a distillery?
Not me.
Or a distillery that's called like three guys, three boys distillery, whatever the hell, 3 brothers, 3 fathers. I don't know what it's called.
3 boys. Yeah, it's in Lawrenceburg. Yeah, 3 boys.
Yeah, and don't they have something where you can actually go and thieve your own barrel and put it into a bottle? I didn't bring it up on the podcast because I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Give them like,
I don't know about that.
I'm gonna put them on a national radar, but I've heard that you can go there and you can just fill your own. So,
I don't know about that.
And but then
I'll go check it out.
that's
Isn't there also a 30?
No, the Bourbon 30. Oh, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean where they had the special blends that only make 30 bottles? Like, how's that happen? Like a blend that only makes 30 bottles. Like, you get to use like an eyedropper. That doesn't make sense.
They used wee little barrels.
Yeah, believe me, we're never gonna give them a plug for anything, so it's okay.
Didn't you just give them a plug?
Yeah, well. What if you call that a plug? That's fine. It's funny. I mean, we've had plenty of people that emailed us and they're like, "Hey, talk about the Bourbon 30 controversy." And we're like, "I don't think we should. Like, that doesn't help anybody." So like, well, and not only that, it's so small. Like, it only happens in our niche of the world. So taking it to our 20,000 listener user base, it just doesn't make sense. So
we have to think about like that whole thing when it went down and it was coming across to me. I was like, oh, I don't want to cover this.
How far away can we get from this?
And this was really before it came to the podcast attention. I was like, I don't want to write about this. I don't want to write about it. But if I can see like an eager writer or someone making a name for themselves with it. It'll be a good one to do. But, here's one.
It's fun.
God, I wish I caught. You guys familiar with the Goodwood release?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was So they were claiming that they had gotten the fallen Barton barrels.
We read that.
And then they were claiming that they were misled. Well, I just interviewed his broker, and he was like, "We never said that they got them from there." So,
not surprising.
They lied.
And then I kind of reached out to him again. I was like, who was your broker? And he said, we used several. So. You
don't need several. They bought 12 barrels? Is that what they said? They bought 12 and dumped them back in a 6th out. So you don't need several brokers to buy 12.
Somebody was not forthcoming. That's amazing.
So I just
Somebody
haven't
was
had
not-
time to revise my story and put that out there, but I'm pretty well caught him in a lie.
Mhm.
So,
Well, that's
I mean, on that, you don't have to reveal too
Has anyone
much.
had that release?
Do
Sorry,
you
Blake.
think they just assume like nobody's going to question them on it? Because I feel like that's a pretty bold statement to make, and they would have to think that
the community took them out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's essentially what happened. Is that they said something, and then all of a sudden the community was like, "Wait a minute." Actually, what it was is then Bourbon and Banter, they wrote the article, and then all of a sudden, and that's what I said. It's something to Fred. I was like, I don't think this seems right. And then all of a sudden, the community was like, I don't think so, because
there's
these
no
barrels
way Sazerac
have been
would-
around for a while. And then, good thing everybody answers Fred's emails.
I think Fred answers emails.
Yeah, I don't answer my own emails. Sorry about that.
Yeah, speaking
Yeah, he's
of
got a
Fred,
filter
I
on
wrote you
him.
back to your email to me. We should talk sometime.
Wait.
Still waiting for a response like 3 weeks later.
I have been nothing but candid with you all that I don't answer
It's
emails
true.
or listen to voicemails.
you just gotta
That's not
address
true
your
because
emails
my
to Fred,
inbox
too.
freaking blows up with you two all freaking day.
Well, that my business partners, I'm very good at responding to that because it's usually contractually fiduciary.
Just gotta
Just
do
give
it
him
sometime.
like 0.25 of Breaking Bourbon, and you'll
get a response.
10%, but yeah. I kid.
Although the Bourboner email is the only one I don't have on the Google platform, so every email that gets sent in our like email strand is another email just lined up. I'm like, oh my word, there's 45 emails in here, and it doesn't like collapse nicely like it does in Google.
He responds to me because if he doesn't, I fuck up his stories.
I love it.
There's your soundbite for the intro.
There it is.
Keep that one.
In all seriousness, that's a mic drop for Carla. Yeah.
All right, take the poster down now. Here we go.
Yeah, that's a mic drop. No, Carla's a brilliant editor. Lucky to have
All
her.
right, I'm
Hey,
out of here.
so
One. Okay, go ahead.
Ryan, in
Jordan.
case it rains again for Bourbon and Beyond, you better start like lining up, 1930s Old Taylor bottles,
Yeah.
just because you're on the hook now. That's tradition. That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean,
Whenever there's rain out, we open one of those. That's right. So Fred, where's that going to be? What's the park? Can you say yet?
No, not
The
until
press
tomorrow, I think.
conference is tomorrow.
Ooh.
Need a deposition. I can't watch press conferences.
Oh, well, you can live stream it,
I can't watch it. Well, just live stream it then. Come on.
Kenny and Lauren will be there. Jessica will be there live streaming it from my Facebook page. So, yeah.
I give you an invite too if you wanted to come, but it's your call.
Sure. I'll be on the live stream.
But, it's
Was this
going to
announcing,
be.
like the lineup, the place, and everything, or
Yeah, we'll be announcing the dates, the lineup for the country festival, not Bourbon and Beyond, and then location.
What time's it?
No.
he was
tell
actually
any
at
What's that?
Appointments.
I think it's a
Dan-
two.
You can't tell us any of it tonight.
Well, it's the location. The location what matters for all of us because it's the location for Bourbon and Beyond as well.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
It's at 2 p.m.
All right. I'll have to pick it up after the deposition.
Danny Wimmer
But-
was actually at my office, and it's a couple months ago now, but because he does Rockville too, which
Yep.
my office, the office suites I'm in, they own like everything he does it on. And so I'm like, hey, can I meet him? And then I had a meeting that day. So I was like, oh, I'll catch him on the next go around and try to offer him some bourbon.
He would have taken it.
We just ordered 10,000 Pursuit Series ponchos.
Smart man.
Hand those things out.
And with that, Ryan is banned.
Too soon, Ryan.
Too soon, man.
Too soon.
10 years might be
6
too
months
soon.
later.
I kid.
Oh man. I mean, it really actually would be a pretty cheap giveaway, to be honest with you. It's like
be.
probably 50 cents a poncho.
Fred would
like,
knife you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just order like 500 and make them like limited.
Yeah.
$5 a piece.
Limited edition.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm out
All right,
of here.
that is
Enjoyed it, guys and gals. That
Yeah.
was fun.
Was
That
fun.
was fun.
That was a good one.
All right.
Like
well,
the-
I put my
like to
vote in
flow
for having
that
Carla
one.
back.
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah,
glad
that was-
we had Brian on retainer, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. There's no way we can make it through a lot of this stuff without Brian knowing what he knows.
Law, yeah. You might have needed me this time.
Oh, I know. It was great.
I
We're
mean-
into a 5-figure invoice right now. Is basically.
I was billing the whole damn time.
Yeah.
Clock's still running. Turn that damn thing off, Brian.
Talking.
He's got his LexisNexis access, and that's what gives him all that access to all the old history stuff. So we gotta keep plugging him for that.
Well, can you buy a new router with all these new?
Yeah, I'm gonna go check it out after we hang up.
See if Uverse got that fiber around you yet. Yeah.
Yeah, Lake Forest is not
idea.
Crescent Hill, so I can't.
All right. I'll see y'all. Enjoy.
All right,
guys.
All right. See you guys
Bye.
later.
All right, everyone. Take care, and
Good-
thank you everybody
good
for
job,
joining
all.
on chat.
All right.
Thanks.
Good job, Carla. Bye
See you
bye.
tomorrow. Thanks,
Bye.
Carla.
See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.